Warhammer Plus is finally here! And like many of you, I have been quietly but eagerly awaiting this release so that I can judge for myself just how I feel about it. And why, you might be asking, have I been quiet about that? Well, because somehow this release has been perhaps the single most divisive thing that Games Workshop have managed to do recently, causing quite a bit of the old argy-bargy in the community. So in an effort to not get dragged into all that and lost in the shuffle, I've been kind of biding my time and just waiting until I've actually consumed it before I pass comment and judgment on it. However, now that it's out, let's get judging. So coming up are going to be my reactions and observations based on day one of Warhammer Plus's release. I've consumed all of the content that's relevant to me personally, and I've had a bit of a scan over the stuff that I'm not so high on to give me a bit of an idea, and I'm now ready to talk about it. So this is a CGI animation following a group of Blood Angel Space Marines who somehow, in a moment of monumental carelessness, have managed to misplace their captain. It is absolutely visually stunning in most areas, with things like armour reflections particularly looking great, and all of that grittiness that you want from Warhammer 40k visuals very much present. There's definitely a couple of awkward little things here and there though. The mouth animations in particular, when some of the characters are talking, look a little bit dated. But the main thing I really appreciated about this episode was that the feel of it overall felt consistent with what we've already consumed previously from Black Library. Every now and again you definitely get a writer in the world of Warhammer fiction who likes to go rogue and do their own thing, and this can have very mixed results, ranging from spectacular to causing quite a lot of community backlash. But this is certainly not going to be that latter thing. If you are a stalwart Blood Angels lore fan, you're gonna get what you want here. Hammer and Bolter, meanwhile, is a more hand-drawn style of animation, but with some CG enhancements mixed in. The story centres around an Inquisitor, who, in that most inquisitorial of traditions, begins the episode by introducing the skull of someone who's just helped him to the business end of a mass reactive round. I get the funny feeling I'm going to enjoy this one. The animation on offer here is absolutely gorgeous, reminding me really strongly of the Netflix Castlevania series, both in the colour palettes used but also in the line art style. And if the opening wasn't clue enough, expect this one to get very violent very quickly. If you're after some brutal violent action scenes, this is definitely going to satisfy. It is bloody, it is brutal, but it is excellently crafted. I absolutely love it. So there are currently two of these Citadel Masterclasses on offer, one on painting pale-skinned faces and the other on wet blending, both presented by Louise Sugden. The pitching is very clearly from the start aimed towards a more skilled, more experienced and more invested painter. Someone who's looking to move up from the tabletop and high tabletop kind of paint jobs that Warhammer's main YouTube channel teaches. Now this next part is absolutely personal bias, so please take it with a grain of subjective sodium, because I have a lot of my own ideas on how painting should be taught to others. However, I just felt like some of the ideas being presented were being delivered in maybe slightly convoluted ways, yet at the same time managed to gloss over key details, like for example the importance of directional strokes when glazing. This could absolutely just be an issue with editing or the need for brevity though, it's not a major one. But I do feel like if I, as someone who teaches painting, is struggling to follow along with these guides, then perhaps someone who's taking their first steps into advanced painting, which is who you would think this is aimed at, might also struggle a little. However, it's really important to acknowledge here that different learners learn the learnerly learning in different learnerly ways, and your mileage is almost definitely going to vary here. And I also want to be very quick to add that this does not take away from the strong points. Louise is an absolutely brilliant presenter and painter. She's engaging to listen to and her work regularly blows me away. She's done an absolutely fantastic job with these videos. And one thing that was really lovely to see was wet palettes actually being acknowledged as a thing that exists in the world. Despite the fact that Louise was using a homemade one in this video, I'm going to take this as a spoiler that perhaps we should expect GW to be releasing one soon, probably around Christmas. And one final thing I will say, and this is a bit of an odd one, is that the music that they've used for these tutorials sounds very similar to the music that Duncan Rhodes uses over on his Painting Academy channel. And that just felt a bit weird. Now obviously battle reports are going to be the longest video format of anything that they put on the Warhammer Plus platform. So I decided to only watch one for the sake of this review, and I went with the Ultramarines versus Necrons one. And I'm actually going to open this up with a bit of negative criticism, but it does come from a good place. I bloody love a good battle report, and I especially love a battle report that has slick camera work and nice looking overlays. So why, GW, in the preamble at the start of this video, is the exposure turned down so low on all those miniatures? It's like viewing them in the dark. Whilst I appreciate that the mum's basement shtick is something that is always going to be hard for us to get away from as wargamers, we've kind of been plastered with that forever, but it's not something I want to see my bat reps supporting. And they immediately shy away from this as soon as it goes to the overhead too, with an absolutely gorgeous and brightly lit map, albeit with maybe some slightly weird scenery choices. But what you can't get away from here is that as well as these bat reps being beautifully slick and wonderfully presented, the infectious happiness from staffers like Nick Baton is always going to be an amazing thing. There's a great deal of joy to be had in observing the joy of others, and so these videos really spark joy. And another huge positive for me on the bat reps is that the lists being presented are not just cookie cutter top tier tournament lists. It's really lovely seeing models on the field that maybe don't always get fielded. Okay, so this section is actually probably currently the largest part of the offering, but I'm actually gonna gloss over it because yeah, there's some White Dwarf issues and there's some lore sources in text format. And if you like those things, you're going to like them. If you already consume those things, you're probably going to consume them here. They're delivered in just exactly the way you'd expect written content to be delivered digitally. One thing I will say though, even though I am glossing over, is that I really appreciate the White Dwarf issues being offered, because I don't buy White Dwarf anymore, so it's quite nice for me to have a little way that I can just dip back in and just take a look at what the mag looks like these days. Some of my fondest childhood memories when I first got into Warhammer were specifically about the White Dwarf magazine. So the real questions that we all want answered are, is it good? And is it worth my £5 a month? So firstly, is it good? Well, I mean, if we're judging purely on merits of the quality of the content, it's excellent. GW has an extremely high standard for the content that they put out these days, and of course Warhammer Plus keeps to this. It's more of the same. The only thing I'd maybe say there is that the video player itself could really do with some of the more YouTube-like quality of life updates. Things like being able to scan the track with the arrow keys and play and pause with the spacebar. I consider those things pretty essential to how I use a video player online, but again, your mileage may vary. So is it worth the money? Right now, it's a maybe. Because for a new entertainment platform, it is very light on content, and that's especially exacerbated if you don't want the written stuff, which I imagine quite a few people probably won't. But I think we also all know that that's going to change very quickly. If Games Workshop have proven one thing in 2021, it's that they are capable of putting out immense volumes of content very, very quickly. So the value proposition is obviously going to depend largely on what you're going to get from it. For me personally, I don't see myself reading a ton of the lore because I prefer audiobooks for consuming lore. But like Hammer and Bolter, the battle reports, the masterclasses, there's plenty there for me to enjoy as well, and I suspect it'll at least keep me subbed for a few months, probably longer. As I move away from having an interest in the actual games that Games Workshop makes, having a way to still engage with the sides of the hobby that I do enjoy is really quite valuable to me, and I think that's a beautiful thing. So the truth of the matter is that you're really going to have to make your own mind up and have your own opinions on this. And I'd love to hear those. If you've subscribed to Warhammer Plus already, or if you're considering subscribe to it, drop me a comment below and let me know. Let me know what you think. Let me know which animations you like, which ones you dislike. I want to hear thoughts on this because it's really interesting to me. And that's really going to be all from me on this one. So until next time, folks, I'd like to thank you for watching and wish you happy hobbying. I will, of course, see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.